यह ज्ञान की दुनिया, यहाँ दुनिया का ज्ञान, कृषि विज्ञान और अनुसंधान, नए क्षितिज अब छू रही शिक्षा, ऑनलाइन पढ़ाई संग लग रही कक्षा.
So the time has come to draw a curtain to our program. Myself, Aditi Sharma, welcomes you all in Bharat Ratna C. Subramaniam Auditorium. We all have gathered here for the valedictory session of International Conference on Blended Learning Ecosystem for Higher Education in Agriculture. And for this session, I now take the opportunity to welcome our Honorable Chief Guest on dais, Dr. R.B. Singh, former Chancellor, Central Agriculture University, Imphal, former Chairman, ASRB, and former President, NAS, New Delhi. Chairperson of the session, Dr. Himanshu Pathak, Secretary DARE and DG ICAR. And we have our guest of honor, Dr. Auguste Kwame, Country Director, the World Bank, Washington, USA. And we have our guest of honor, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, former Secretary DARE and DG ICAR. And now I would like to invite Dr. Shailesh Kumar Mishra, Director, Extension, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. We have Dr. R.C. Agarwal, Deputy Director General, Agricultural Education and National Director, National Agricultural Higher Education Project, ICAR. And along with that, we have Dr. Anuradha Agarwal, National Coordinator, NAHEP Component 2 and CAST ICAR. A big round of applause for all the dignitaries. Now I would like to request Dr. R.C. Agarwal to welcome all the guests as per Indian tradition with a potted plant and a beautiful shawl highlighting our tricolor. So we would like to welcome our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. R.B. Singh, former Chancellor, Central Agricultural University, Imphal, former Chairperson, ASRB, and former President, NAS, New Delhi. A big round of applause for our Honorable Chief Guest. Our guest of honor, Dr. Auguste Kwame, Country Director, the World Bank, Washington, USA. Dr. Auguste Kwame, Country Director, the World Bank, Washington, USA. Our guest of honor, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, former Secretary DARE and DG ICAR. Our special guest, Dr. Shailesh Kumar Mishra, Director, Extension, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. A very warm welcome to all of you. And now, to begin this session, I would like to invite Dr. R.C. Agarwal again, our DDG Agricultural Education and National Director, NAHEP, for the welcome address.
Thank you very much. Chief guest for today's valedictory function, Professor R.B. Singh, a man with great vision, a man who has received several awards and who has held several positions and has served this agricultural system in various capacities. So we welcome you, Professor R.B. Singh, sir, for this. Our guest, esteemed guest, I see Country Director of the World Bank, Dr. August Teno Pom. So he is a man for whom we are waiting for many occasions, but today finally we are lucky that we could have you here for this valedictory program. So we have really a great opportunity for us in welcoming you. Our beloved former Director General ICR and Secretary there, Dr. Trilochana Mahapatraji, the man who was the architect of this whole NEHB project, the man who executed this from the front. And this entire project got conceptualized during this period, and then the man who gave the complete directions for this project. What we see today progress was achieved with his great leadership, direction. So we welcome you, sir, for this valedictory program. Dr. Mishra, the Director of Extension and Ministry of Agriculture. So we welcome you for this valedictory program. So our Secretary Agriculture was busy somewhere. So we are thankful to him for nominating him to join for this valedictory program. My colleague Dr. Anada, the entire team from the World Bank, I see TTL, I see our esteemed speakers who have joined for this program, many vice chancellors, our students, our PIs of this NEHB project, our staff from this ICR, from PIU, and all others who are really present in this hall today. It's my pleasure to just brief you that what we have done during this 3 days conference, which is coming to close after this valedictory program. In this 3 days program, I want to inform to the dais or to the esteemed audience, in this blended learning ecosystem for higher education in agriculture, which started on 21st, we have very useful discussions. We had around 19 keynote speakers during these 3 days, and all very important topics. And we had discussions, panel discussions on 6 important topics, where we had the speakers from 11 countries. We have the 20 speakers. They joined offline, online in both the manner. And the topics, if you see, for this blended learning, which is really important, for which we got the idea after this COVID, that yes, we have to have under this NAHIB a resilient agricultural education system for our universities. And for that, then we started, we are thankful to the World Bank, then they immediately accepted our idea of this resilient agricultural education system, and they asked us to go ahead with this. For this, in this 3 days time, we had discussions during these panel discussions or this keynote speakers that what can be the strategies for implementation of the BLPs? What can be the sustainability plans? What are the different technologies which are available for this? What are the best practices available? What are the views of different stakeholders for implementation of this? So we got all kind of critical comments for this, which we are going to summarize in the Delhi Declaration today, which we are going to read before all of you. We also discussed, because there are 3 important pillars for this BLP. What can be the infrastructure which already we have under this project? What can be the contents? And then what can be the capacity plans? So we also discussed on these capacity plans. And for capacity plans also, we had both panel discussions and we also had the keynote speakers. We discussed various models for this BLP implementation. And we also discussed about the digital transformations in education sector through this BLP. Already we are much ahead in this digital transformation for this agricultural education. We are thankful to our government for coming out with this national education policy. And that national education policy has really given us a great strength in implementation in our agricultural universities, and great insights that how we can really change our curriculum. Already we have changed our curriculum as per the NEP for the UG programs, PG program, PhD programs, and now we are coming out with the various models for the entrepreneurship. Today, some of the exhibits you must have seen that how the students are coming out with this entrepreneurship, and similarly we are now thinking that how best we can provide all kind of incubation support to the universities so that they can learn end-to-end complete process for becoming an entrepreneur. So all those things we are doing, but I'll not take much time, and we will to listen more from our esteemed guests, dignitaries today, so that we can be really benefited. But I understand our esteemed guest, Dr. August, he has to leave by 4:40. So I think we can request him to first speak, and then we can carry on this program. Thank you.
So we have our honorable guest, Dr. August Kwame, Country Director of the World Bank. Sir, we request you to kindly share your views and bless all of us with your kind words.
Thank you very much. Thank you, honorable guest, Dr. Trilochan Mohapatra, Dr. Ms. Agrawal, Dr. Himanshu Pathak, and Honorable Dr. Singh. It was a real pleasure meeting you today, and you have been an institution for of learning for many in India and around the world. So I really enjoyed the short exchange we had, and I felt blessed having met you in this first visit here in this institution that you also led a few years ago. Honorable participant, my apologies for not having been able to be here with you 2 days ago. I really was looking forward to it, but I was out of Delhi. I had to be out of Delhi on short notice, and I promised that I will be here before the session closed. So I'm glad I can make it, and I promise this will not be my last visit here. Personally, I'm very excited about this moment because agriculture is a very important part of what we do at the World Bank, given our strong focus on development and development that is inclusive. But the other reason that makes this a very special moment for me also is because I come from an agricultural family. I grew up in an agricultural family in rural Côte d'Ivoire, and I know how important agriculture is, not just for farmers, but for all communities, everyone. So let me start by highlighting the importance of agricultural research, which is the main topic of the past 2 days, and in fact the main focus of this institution. Agricultural research is a very important input in the production process. Global data show that total factor productivity represents more than half of what drives agricultural output. Agricultural research is also very important because it creates, it's a source of employment. It is very complementary to what farmers do. We have in India, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture has put a lot of emphasis, including in the context of this conference, on the importance of research and development expenditures, which the Indian government allocates every year to various institutions. And the Indian government has also worked very closely with various external institutions, including the World Bank, in that endeavor. The spread of new and improved agricultural technologies didn't start today in India. It started well beyond, and we know that India has been the global leader on the Green Revolution, and this was underpinned by some amount of research, even though today, when we look at what you all are doing, we kind of forget that what was being done under the Green Revolution was research, but it was research at a small scale and maybe at a more basic level, but research nonetheless. And the transformation that we have seen in India over the decades, I'm proud to say, by the way, that the World Bank was associated with this progress since the 60s. We have had agricultural project in the 50s and 60s, but this transformation has been impressive. And today, India is at, we could say, the cutting edge of agricultural research, producing 50,000 graduates per year, and producing not graduates who work for many, many years in the sector, but also producing researchers. Our data show that India produces 5,000 PhDs every year, which is probably higher than you can find in almost any country in the world. India has 74 institutions working on agricultural research, including 20 specialized research institutions. So really congratulations to all of you and to the authorities who have been working to push this agenda forward. India has a strong network of institutions under the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, which lay out the agenda and work with many countries around the world. I understand there are at least a dozen of nationalities participating in this forum, in this international conference. This also shows the footprint of ICAR. The World Bank came in just before COVID at the invitation of the Indian government to work on what is called the National Agricultural Higher Education Project, the NAEP, which was negotiated just before COVID, but it was a project that had foresight, because during COVID, it really leveraged technology and distance education to be able to get the agriculture sector going despite lockdown. And not only it was a fit-for-purpose project for managing during COVID, but it has developed a number of technologies and techniques that can now be used and are being used to provide education, both on-campus and off-campus education, and to also inspire how technology, high-quality technology, can be used for high-quality learning beyond agriculture in other sectors as well. And thirdly, NAEP has also inspired how technology can be used for extension, not just to provide learning for researchers, but also to provide opportunities for vocational education and for farmers also perhaps to tap the knowledge that is being produced. And NAEP has now given the opportunity to develop another initiative, the Resilient Agricultural Education System, RISE, which is a very proud feature of the Indian government, and we're very proud to have been associated to that. As mentioned during these 2 days by several participants, the World Bank will continue, has been working with you for 3 decades, but we will continue working with you. I'm happy to be here with a few World Bank colleagues, and we have a lot more colleagues in our office here in India and in Washington who will be prepared to continue working with the Indian government and your partners in the development institutions. Let me, in the interest of time, close perhaps by congratulating all organizers of the ICBLE. I hope I have the name right. And I would like to challenge all of us in working on a couple of issues going forward. One is that whilst the Green Revolution has been a gift of India to the world, we also know that it emphasized high yield, and which we supported, by the way, back then. In those days, in fact, the World Bank had a project on high yield seeds. So we put a lot of emphasis on high yield. We put a lot of emphasis on ensuring that there is no more famine in India, and there will be no more famine in India. But in doing that, we also created a system where the agricultural sector now is quite high carbon intensive, consumes a lot of water, and now the challenge for us is to reverse the high carbon intensive technology packages that are feeding us, but perhaps not sustaining the planet. The second thing I would like to challenge all of us to do is to ensure that we disseminate the new technologies at scale. A number of states in India, especially in North India, readily embracing new technologies, but perhaps not all states in India are doing so equally well. So we can challenge ourselves, including us at the World Bank, to work with all states to adopt the new technologies so that all states can equally benefit from the expertise and knowledge that you are all developing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable views. And due to his commitments, our honorable guest, Dr. Auguste Tanokwame, has to leave. He will not be able to part of the entire session. Sir, we thank you for taking out time and being here and sharing your views with us. Before you leave, we would like to request Dr. R.C. Agarwal to present a small token of thanks to you. A big round of applause for our guest of honor, Dr. Auguste Tanokwame. So as we move further, and before inviting our guest of honor for their views, we would like to show you a small video made by our whole team. That is the conference video, which highlights all the key points of ICBLE 2023, a small effort made by all our team members.
Is key
थोड़ा
to
volume
sustainable economic development across all sectors, including agriculture.
वॉल्यूम बढ़ाओ भाई इसका वॉल्यूम.
As Indian agriculture rises to the next level of transformation and technological advancement, the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, has, in conjunction with the World Bank, embarked upon a new development initiative. The Resilient Agricultural Education System, popularly known as RACE, is being implemented under NAHEP by ICAR IASRI. RACE leverages a three-pronged approach encompassing the building of an online learning platform while strengthening digital infrastructure in Indian agricultural universities, the development of a digital content repository and a digital capacity building program aimed at inculcating and improving digital competence and skills. At a broad, overarching level, RACE seeks to create an online learning experience. It offers continuous and uninterrupted access to quality education for overall development of student capacity, leading to enhanced employability aligned with the needs of the market. This further fosters industry-academia partnerships to strengthen the system and ensure better outcomes. Going forward, the International Conference on Blended Learning Ecosystem for Higher Education in Agriculture is a multi-partner global event. It will enable ICAR to develop a strategy for accelerating the implementation of a unique blended learning platform. It aims at strengthening the digital backbone of agricultural higher education institutions, combining the power of knowledge with skill development and digital empowerment. Welcome to a transformational partnership forum on the leading practices in digital infrastructure, digital content, and digital capacity building spanning government, private and non-profit sectors. Let the transformation begin.
An informative and a very special presentation. Moving further, it's time to call Dr. Shailesh Kumar Mishra, Director Extension, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Sir, I request you to kindly say a few words.
Good evening. Most respected earlier Secretary, dear Dr. Mahapatra Sahib, most respected NAS President, Padma Vibhushan Dr. R.B. Singh Sahib, Dynamic Leader Dr. R.C. Agrawal ji, National Coordinator Dr. Anuradha Agrawal ji, my dear respected dignitaries from throughout the country and abroad, and Dr. Janki Ram Sahib, very good evening to all of you. On behalf of Secretary, Department of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare, Government of India, I have to say a few words about this successfully organized 3 days international conference. Friends, the conference envisaged as a multi-partner global forum to facilitate knowledge sharing and support to collaboration and partnership for the development of state-of-art blended learning ecosystem for higher agriculture education in India. I think this conference would help for the new paradigm of agricultural higher education system by creating a roadmap under National New Education Policy 2020. As you know, agriculture sector in India contributes more than 18% of the gross value added of the economy and employs more than 40% of the workforce. Friends, farmers are adopting new technologies to improve and monitor crop health and production. In the same time, the true adoption of blended learning has immense potential and can unlock of agriculture economy to new heights. I am sure blended learning process would create new opportunities for higher agriculture education in India and will explore the strategy on sourcing, implementation, monitoring for creating robust learning environments in India. In fact, this conference provided new ideas for changing the curriculum for developing multidisciplinary programs. I'm sure conference has also provided a platform for sustainability of blended learning ecosystem through private-public partnership in alignment with market need and demand. Deliberations among stakeholders would facilitate in formulating the mechanism for continuous improvement of cross-sectorial integration of blended learning ecosystem. I'm sure ICR and the World Bank are jointly building the resilient agriculture education system. The resilient agriculture education system would strengthen the existing digital infrastructure in agriculture universities by introducing an online learning platform, development of a digital content repository, as well as digital capacity building program. I hope allowing end user to enhance their digital competence, knowledge and skills. At the end, I heartily congratulate on behalf of DAFW to Dr. R.C. Agrawal Sahib to organize such a unique, timely and excellent 3 days international conference. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. And now it makes me really happy to invite our guest of honor, our former Secretary DARE and DG ICR, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra. Sir, I request you to kindly address the gathering with your words.
Honorable Professor R.B. Singh, Padma Bhushan, former Chancellor, Central Agriculture University, Imphal, former Chairman, ASRB, and former Director, IRI, and former President, National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, Dr. R.C. Agarwal, Deputy Director General, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, Dr. Shailesh Mishra, Dr. Anuradha Agrawal, representatives from the World Bank, Vice Chancellors from various agricultural universities, Assistant Director Generals, Deputy Director Generals, if they are there, delegates from different countries and institutions from India and abroad, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, let me thank profusely Dr. Agrawal for inviting me to be part of this conference, the International Conference on Blended Learning Ecosystem for Higher Education in Agriculture. I have been coming and attending, starting from inaugural program, to few of the sessions, and today in the valedictory session. Time would be always limiting, so I would be very specific and brief. When we were planning this National Agriculture Higher Education project with World Bank, the resilient agriculture education system was not really initially included. At the later phase, we discussed about it and decided that we can have it and spend little money on this aspect. Given the importance of digital revolution that is happening all around, and more so in the context of COVID, you have all seen that how profound impact was, particularly negative impacts on many spheres of our activity. So agriculture education was also negatively impacted because of absence of students and teachers, because physicality is the one which was prohibited. And that's the reason why digitality was promoted. And digital platforms, they were thought about. So as part of this program, as it was mentioned by Honorable Minister in the inaugural program, that we had several initiatives including smart classrooms and Krishi Megh, the cloud system for us, the universities and ICR to work with, to store an enormous amount of data, retrieve it, and that too, despite calamities, and then utilize adequately the infrastructure for the purpose of teaching and learning and enhancing the outcomes despite the limitations of COVID. So that is a great enabler. Mention was made about digital infrastructure, digital content, and digital capacity building, 3Ds. And you see frequent mention of these aspects, which have been very critically thought about and included in the whole concept for enabling, facilitating, and re-energizing the teaching learning process under difficult situations and also under normal situations. Blended learning, as we talk today, was not there when we were students. The form of blending was very rudimentary. To explain the difficult schemes, concepts, I remember using charts in student seminar. And classes used to use blackboards. And one of our famous teachers would write for an hour or so and fill all information in 4 to 5 blackboards, and all would be there in the class. They will be displayed, and teacher would be explaining each one of those, and you would not have any time to actually write down any one of the contents which were actually written there in those blackboards. Neither those days we had telephones like mobiles to take photographs of those what is written, the content, for referring subsequently after going back to the rooms from the classes. And textbooks certainly would have contents, but they may not be as systematic, as concise as they are presented in the classes by the teachers. What was used later on was the overhead projectors and transparencies which were written, handwritten, not even printed. And some schemes which were drawn there, not as understandable as we have computer-generated graphics today. So the teaching learning process was left to more of imaginations and understanding based on intuitive power at times. And those who have great deal of involvement and reading of textbooks and research papers, they used to understand better than others. The classroom teaching was so difficult those days. And today, we talk about BLE, Blended Learning Ecosystem. Before COVID, certainly use of e-platforms was bare minimum, almost negligible. At the most, when I was teaching, mostly overhead slides and projections were used. And some slides were made physically presented. Difficult to change the content that used to continue for 5 to 10 years, despite the fact that the changes do happen, and they did happen, because it was not easy to really make slides. And subsequently, the computers and projections came in, so it became digital. So digital slide mode of presentations came into existence and make life much easier. So the technology has evolved and evolved very significantly. When we talk of blended learning ecosystem, it's more about technology. Whether you do online in the online format or in the offline classroom format, technology use is there and would continue to be there. In fact, more and more technology is used in the classrooms, probably the teaching learning process would be far more meaningful and efficient and effective, I would say. Leave aside the online system. Online system has its own advantage. We have seen during COVID times. In this 75 lecture series, the document was released during inaugural program. When we were planning about it, we never thought the enormity of the 75 lecture series. In the sense that every week arranging a lecture by an expert was not an easy job, but we committed to it. And in fact, thanks to Dr. R.C. Agarwal, who did stand by this commitment, what we did, and continued doing this. Harnessing the benefit by way of engaging with experts from any country abroad during COVID times without requiring to travel, so that way saving time, reaching wider and deeper. Students and faculty from various universities attending without physically translating them. Neither the teacher nor the learner have to travel. So such a great impact and positive impact. And saving cost in the process, since there is no travel involved. So you save on time and also on cost. So the online system and platform and its use had tremendous impact. It's not just 75 lecture series, but also the classes which are held during that period. So blended learning ecosystem involves technology. The offline-online platforms all are utilized and being utilized, and today we say that it must be strengthened. Speaker after speaker, I have heard that they have opined that it has tremendous strength, and we must be strengthening this further. How do we do this? What is the objective? The universities have a tremendous responsibility. Responsibility of creating human resource to serve the society is the first and foremost responsibility. Creating human resource to serve the society, to meet the community needs. What extent BLE can enable this and strengthen this further? It's a great job, great task for the universities to perform. Can BLE further enhance this as it is happening and 5 years, 10 years down the line? The other objective of these universities is to create innovations. Innovations for countries to take advantage of. And also provide advantage to the global consumers and end users, other end users, the industry. How those innovation and innovations, generation of innovations can be facilitated through blended learning ecosystems. I believe we should discuss BLE on a larger context. And if you see how things are happening globally, whether it is at Harvard or Cambridge or any other university which are at the top of ranking, how they are actually capitalizing on this and making this teaching learning experience far more meaningful and creating tomorrow's entrepreneurs. Today in the US, 25% of their students are aspiring to be entrepreneurs because of this blended learning ecosystem. And when I say blended learning ecosystem, and when we discuss blended learning ecosystem, it's actually blended teaching learning ecosystem. It actually starts with teaching. The teaching is blended, both physical and online, and employs technologies. And learning in the process becomes far more effective. That's what we mean. But what is that we should be really doing? Very few points and time is limiting. I don't want to give a long lecture and we have to listen to others. Our chief guest, Honorable Dr. R.B. Singh. And also, I believe the chairman, Dr. Himanshu Pathak, would be joining shortly. What is that we should be doing actually? Do you have really infrastructure to enable and successfully implement BLE? We have created some infrastructure, as it is mentioned, through the National Agriculture Higher Education Project. But that's not really adequate and sufficient to actually enable all the universities to implement, perfectly these, blended learning. So we need to really create more infrastructure. This is one at the universities. But when we talk of blended learning, not necessarily the learner should be there at the university. The learner can be anywhere in the village, at their respective homes. If that has to happen, we need to have adequate internet and networking facility available. Is it there? I do not think so. Even in the campus of Pusa, IRI, you don't get actually sufficient internet strength to be participating in such kind of online programs and have learning and the teaching effectively done. So when we talk of these to work with the farmers or other learners, farmer could be a learner or even the entrepreneurs sitting at a corner of the country. So that infrastructure needs investment. So this country has to really invest, and that should be one of the part of the declaration, Dr. Agrawal Saab. The Delhi Declaration should have a very important point of investment in creating infrastructure, appropriate infrastructure, so that the country takes advantage of BLE, blended learning ecosystem, and completely and entirely throughout the country. But that's not really existing at this point in time. Creating few smart classrooms is not really going to serve the purpose. So that is first point I would like to emphasize. The second is the digital content, which has been mentioned repeatedly. Do we have a digital content sufficiently available to enable implementation of blended learning and teaching learning platforms? I do not think so. And in fact, this you have highlighted in your document I was looking at, that it has to be discipline specific. In fact, globally, as BLE is moving, it has to be interdisciplinary primarily. And in fact, when you talk of interdisciplinary blended learning ecosystem to be built, that what should be the content of it? And who is capable of building such contents? Unless people from different disciplines come together, brainstorm, I will not be able to really build that kind of content for teaching to happen in this ecosystem. And so that we build tomorrow's entrepreneurs. As I said, in the US, 25% of students are aspiring to be entrepreneurs. And they are becoming entrepreneurs. In fact, billions of dollars of worth they are creating every year by way of becoming entrepreneurs. And you can see all this data is there in the internet. I don't have to repeat actually. But for creating this digital content, probably, we may not be capable of doing alone. We have to go for different institutions, maybe IITs and others who have that kind of capability and capacity to really help us, or even build an international consortium. And this is an international conference, and I believe that there are capacities and capabilities available elsewhere in foreign universities, because they have already implemented this in many of the universities. So this should be actually part of the declaration, that building an international or global agricultural blended learning consortium and a platform for building these contents, interdisciplinary contents for teaching to be effective in the blended learning and teaching learning ecosystem to be actually successful. And not only that,
And this consortium should enable capacity building. Do you have teachers to actually use augmented reality and virtual reality effectively to teach? Do they really understand all the integrities of the contents and platforms to teach effectively? I have my own doubts. And in my 6.5 years of stay in the council, I have gone to more than 50 universities, and I have seen the kind of infrastructure they have, kind of teachers they have, the kind of inbreeding. And your own data says, more than 50% of them have completed all their degrees in the same university. The faculties, they have completed their degrees, all the degrees, obtained all the degrees from the same university where they're posted at this point in time. So given this situation, that we have a very big task of capacity building of our faculties to have effective blended learning ecosystem to be functional. And unless we have this, I don't think we will be, actually succeeding. And, one, two more points I'll say and finish it up. And when we say that these platforms should be capitalizing on the strength of this 3D and then building onto this, then what is to be really done? We need to encourage. We talk of entrepreneurship, we talk of skilling, we talk of student-ready programs and all that we have been doing. But practically, we are lagging behind with regard to enabling our students to aspire for becoming entrepreneurs. How that can happen? That can happen through BLE. How do we really capitalize BLE? We can capitalize on BLE by more and more of engagement with the industry partnership and lectures by the industry experts to display before us using virtual and augmented realities how they are doing and how business is happening and how the youngsters can start a business. And guiding the youngsters to really do business, build entrepreneurship. And how the idea of youngsters can be actually translated into innovations, and that innovation can be actually incubated, and then entrepreneurship can be built. So unless that kind of partnership is built through BLE, I don't think we will be able to succeed in our efforts in the university system. So 21st century university has to implement BLE for building entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship among that particular concept has to be there among the students, and that needs a formation of groups, and groups based on choice of the students. Let them form groups, let them ideate, and then that idea, let it transform into a innovation, and let there be industry partnership coming in by way of interfacing, by way of lectures, by way of interactions, through online platforms, and then, entrepreneurs being, born out of the whole, concept of BLE. So I believe there is plenty of opportunity for us to do that. But then, this BLE should actually provide, opportunity for gender mainstreaming. The woman today, if she is carrying, she is married, she has to take leave, and can she attend classes from from home and taking care of child? No need to really take child care leave, and taking care of a child and still attending the classes and learning everything and appearing in the examination. And do you have policies to enable this? So we need to really have policy changes for BLE to be actually effectively helping gender mainstreaming and supporting women and even other disadvantaged class of people, the physically handicapped and disabled people who can't really travel and attend classes every day, and so enabling them by way of a blended learning ecosystem. And I believe that that kind of policies should be in place quickly, on DDG Saab, and so that, we effectively implement this. And then our, employability. What is the, employability of our students? How BLE can improve on employability. And we have to really measure that. And can we measure that? But this is a very important concept globally. How do you measure the effectiveness of blended learning ecosystem and how it is really working? So continuously it has to be monitored and measured, and so that we progress faster. So there are many things and which I have, but I don't want to really take long time and give you a long lecture on this. And you say that teachers, are important. And I say always teachers are important, but always I say that C.D. Burnham in his book on discussions in cytogenetics said that if our students are no better than the teachers, we are going nowhere. So students have to be better than the teachers. And, I used to tell in my class. And I always perceive that way, that all students are better than the teachers of today. But the kind of involvement and engagement we have seen in students, and if it is completely online system, and in our case, the way I have seen that if a teacher is involved, engaged, is interested in the subject, and is not just for the sake of taking class, is standing in the class, even in the offline format, in physical format, you can't make the class interesting. And students may be physically present there, but mentally they would not be there. That's not effective learning not happening there. So how do you engage with the students? So engaging with the students, even in physical format, is not easy. So all teachers are not really effective communicators. So how teachers become effective communicators? The technology will fail. Technology will fail. You need to really have teachers. And effective communication must happen. ChatGPT can do and put facts, but then the kind of communication that happens, live communication that can happen, and that can be communicated through many distant places through online means, but effective communication must happen. People say that eye contact is so important for communication, for effective communication and effective learning. And, so obviously there is importance of offline method and integration of that, effectively with the online system. So how do we really do this? That depends on the ingenuity. So we should not really forget the human ingenuity in our mad rush for technology to be deployed. So with these words, I would like to really stop here. But, what we should do and encourage deep learning. And you can go and see in Google what is deep learning. And most often, our teaching learning is involving superficial, kind of learning. And that superficial learning should give rise to deep learning. How BLE can enable deep learning? We must really think seriously and discuss and deliberate how to really promote deep learning. And so certainly there are many different aspects of blending learning experience and ecosystem and blended learning ecosystem. And I'm sure you know better than what I know, and you can deliver much better than me, because I am a spent force and I have spent all my time and I can only talk. But, always, there is scope for youngsters to actually imbibe and new cultures, new technologies faster. I am sure the present brand of youngsters, the faculties, young faculties, and young students, and all of you, and the new vice chancellors who are here, and all of us together probably would have a better future, better agricultural future, and deep learning helping us build innovations, disruptive innovations for country to flourish, the country to be climate resilient, and country to have nutritional self-sufficiencies, and also enable global communities to have sufficient food and nutrition. With these words, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now it's time for the important part. It's time for the Delhi Declaration, for which we would like to request our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. R.V. Singh, and our Guest of Honor, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, to kindly release the Delhi Declaration on Modernization of Agricultural Education System aligning with NEP 2020. And to read out the salient points of this declaration, would like to invite Dr. Anuradha Agarwal, National Coordinator, NAHEB Component 2 and CAST ICAR.
Thank you very much, dignitaries on the dais. Thank you to the chair and guest of honor for releasing the Delhi Declaration on modernization of agricultural education system aligning with the National Education Policy 2020. Dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen present in the hall and those present online. I will briefly read this declaration, which summarizes the major recommendations that have emerged from the 3 days of deliberations of the ICBLE 2023 and encapsulates the essence of this Congress. With the permission of the chair, I read the text of the declaration. We, the students, academicians, policymakers, innovators, and development partners who participated in the International Conference on Blended Learning Ecosystem for Higher Education in Agriculture, reiterate that for an agricultural higher education to be resilient, it is critical and important to strengthen agricultural higher education system to support the development of a sustainable, economically robust, and inclusive agricultural sector. We acknowledge the tremendous, impactful, and impressive contributions of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research as the apex body for driving changes and strengthening the efficacy and outcomes of the agricultural research, higher education, and extension system in India, comprising of varied institutions and associated agricultural universities. We also recognize the need to bolster the higher education system in agriculture for a transformative capacity to adopt and deploy new systems against the backdrop of ecological, economic, and social changes. Accordingly, we agree that the ICR is suitably placed to take a lead in enabling resilience in Indian agricultural higher education in partnership with other ecosystem stakeholders while aligning with the National Education Policy of India 2020. Additionally, the resilient agricultural ecosystem being developmental initiative under the NAHEP must strive towards fulfilling the sustainable goals of the United Nations, namely goal number 4 on quality education, goal number 17 on partnership for the goals, goal number 10 on reducing inequalities, and goal number 13 on climate action. It is acknowledged that agricultural education institutions need to make rapid and constructive changes in response to the ever-changing economic, social, and environmental conditions of the present time. Accordingly, there is need to incorporate digital resources and tools for effective and accessible teaching and learning as understood and experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. All stakeholders acknowledged that developing a strong, pertinent, and resilient agricultural higher education system is critical to fostering the growth of competent individuals and professionals for future generations. We are determined to create a renewed and resilient education system for accelerated, gender-inclusive, and sustainable educational outcomes that will pave the road towards the future of Indian education sector in an ever-changing dynamic world. We thus call upon academicians, policymakers, and practitioners to enhance agricultural higher education in alignment with NEP 2020 and the United Nations SDGs, and through relevant, consistent, and sustainable developments and interactions with agricultural and transdisciplinary research and extension. Promote and institutionalize system-wide transparency in governance, effective allocation and utilization of resources, and the programmatic monitoring and evaluation. Further, the agenda of science, technology, engineering, agriculture, and mathematics, abbreviated as STEAM, in agricultural higher education, especially for the disadvantaged groups or communities, through positive policy transformations, system-wide awareness, and standards and accreditation to achieve accelerated outcomes in research, development, and innovation towards maintaining equality, reducing poverty, and ensuring universal access to food, healthcare, and education, and combating the effects of climate change. Promoting multidisciplinary technology-facilitated education within agricultural higher education to develop innovation and research, especially in the area of digital agriculture, to solve endemic challenges such as undernutrition, hunger, poverty, inequity, environmental degradation, shrinking and diminishing natural resources like water and biodiversities. We also resolve to strive towards accelerating the achievement of quality to facilitate optimized learning outcomes across the continuum of undergraduate to doctoral studies by system administrators and regulators, to improve and sustain the mobility of national and international students in global higher education sector by adopting the vital process laid out by the Ministry of Education, Government of India for the Academic Bank of Credit. We also resolve implementation of multiple entry-exit option by adjusting the knowledge base of students to enable opportunities for current students, recent graduates, and alumni to partake in solution-focused, technology-enabled innovation and entrepreneurship by leveraging the intellectual expertise of higher education institutions and global and national initiatives such as Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, Invest India, Make in India, Startup India, chiefly in the agriculture and allied sectors. We also resolve to create experiential learning opportunities for students through job placements in industries, government, community settings to enhance the employability of graduates, strengthen digital infrastructure across agriculture higher education institutions that would encompass the development of a blended learning platform with an evaluation and assessment system appropriate for blended learning environment, along with the deployment of emerging immersive technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, and virtual classrooms to enable user students, faculty, and administrators to access new age methods in learning, teaching, and assessment. We also wish to develop unique digital e-learning content aligned with the academic requirements to meet undergraduate and postgraduate teaching learning outcomes. The digital content would promote self-learning through sophisticated and emerging technologies for teaching and learning, such as problem-based learning, and that would include simulations and adaptive assessments, to both institutionalize a system-wide digital capacity building program to strengthen digital capacity and competence across stakeholders to improve systematic digital competence, knowledge, and skills. In alignment with NEP 2020, to work towards a refreshed and resilient agricultural higher education by way of robust quality assurance through accreditation, minimum standards for higher education, academic regulation, personal policies, review of course curricula, and delivery systems, support for creating and strengthening infrastructure and facilities, improvement of faculty competence, and the admission of students through an all-India examination. And as suggested by Dr. Mahapatra just now, we also will be calling for greater investments in infrastructure required to enhance the digital capacity system to facilitate seamless adoption of the blended learning teaching ecosystem in higher education in agriculture. Thank you.
So that was the Delhi Declaration. We are very much glad to have amongst us our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. R.B. Singh, former Chancellor, Central Agriculture University, Imphal, former Chairperson, ASRB, and former President, NAS, New Delhi, who with his knowledge and expertise have put in a lot of efforts for the betterment of agri sector. Sir, request you to kindly enlighten the gathering with your words.
Oh, Siki. Friends, I have been, forgive me, I have been permitted by my colleagues on left and right that I may speak by sitting here, and I hope I am equally audible to you, and I have your permission to talk to you eye to eye from here, I hope. Professor Mahapatra, Dr. Mishra ji, Dr. Agrawal Sahab, Anuradha, I don't see you. Rajendra Prasad, I think your contribution in your presence here, or quite a few of the Vice Chancellors, very senior colleagues, or distinguished friends from World Bank and other friends, so, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, as a matter of fact, it's a matter of coincidence that I am here as the chief guest, and this is a provision in emergency that Dr. Ramesh Chandji, who was supposed to be the honorable chief guest, somehow could not make it. So I have been asked to do this job. I know I will not come to your expectation because I was not mentally prepared for this, but also I will not be able to replace what wonderful speech Dr. Ramesh Chandji would have given. I know my shortcomings. I will not be very close to that. So I'm sorry that this is the situation, but let me try if I can convey a few things together. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers for a very unique and for the first time ever held in this country a discussion on this very important subject, blended learning. So, Agrawal Sahab, because of you, we are first in the world to undertake this responsibility. As a matter of fact, I'm so delighted that this draft declaration has also been read, so that makes my job simple, that I don't have to summarize what happened over the last 3 days, and this draft is giving the gist of what has happened and the path ahead that we should follow. However, I do find that this is a draft. We may have to still work on it and probably look at the minor points, detail points, in the total contextuality of the system that we have to undertake a final revision, and then once it is finalized and approved by everyone, should go to all the colleagues. As a matter of fact, the outcomes of this conference will go a long way, as a matter of fact, in helping improving the educational system as well as in reaching the unreached. Because today digitalization and the e-agriculture and reaching the people anywhere from anywhere is amazing, and this is where it's one world, one system, and we will be able to really be learning together, not a few of us together, but the whole world is at your command and you are at their command to learn to each other. As a matter of fact, for certain implementations, when I heard that the NEP, the New Education Policy 2020, had already come out, and we in the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, Professor Mahapatra was the Director General, we said, why should we not be able to realign our national agriculture policy to the national education policy as quickly as possible? And you will be very pleased, my dear friends. This is the policy number 99 of the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, which says the new agricultural education policy for reshaping India, and it is based on the, of course, NEP and the topicality, the special requirement of agriculture have also, including farmer as a student and farmer as a teacher, has been kept in mind together in preparing this technology. Therefore, I just wanted to mention that we were able to prepare this as quickly as possible so that we have been able to share it with everyone concerned that this was done as quickly and we got the recognition from the UGC that it is very much in line. And when the UGC talks today, or anyone talks today also of the agricultural education policy, very often this was not the case before, and now I am so pleased that education is at the same level, agricultural education at the same level as we used to talk about earlier of other educations. So congratulations to all of those who have been partner in this and gave us an opportunity to bring out this publication. Dear friends, as you all know, when you view agriculture in a comprehensive sense, agriculture is not to be seen just crops. Agriculture is to be seen in a very comprehensive sense, that's livestock, fisheries, value chains. We have to think of farm to fork, plow to plate. We have to think of farmer-market linkage. I mean, as a matter of fact, all this is the backbone of the national economy and livelihood security. And food, nutrition, ecological, environmental security also to follow along with this is based on, what I mentioned, a comprehensive agriculture. Don't think agriculture in a much more narrower sense, just raising a crop or just producing and distributing a crop. No, the entire system, the entire agro-eco-food system is the one which has to be kept in mind, and that brings into the focus the man behind the plow, the farmer, and the farm and the best of the consumer in the world, they are all linked with agriculture. And therefore, agricultural education, which is supposed to educate and give knowledge to people to update themselves to be more effective to the community, is to consider in entirety the entire aspect. Therefore, the definition of agriculture and the definition of a farmer has to be very comprehensive. A pastoral, a fish catcher, a marine person who is working on the coastal area and catching fish, he is also a farmer, she is a farmer. So please remember that this is a very comprehensive system and we have to see it in that totality. We know that led by the National Agriculture Research, Education and Extension System, I underline the word education, and research extension system, we were able to bring the rainbow revolution. And mind you, it is not only the state agricultural institutions of the ICR, it is the ICR supported national universities, an institution like IRI next door sitting to us. You probably know that that of certain varieties, certain commodities, 70% of the varieties grown in this country come from that institute. 50% of the total wheat production comes under few of the varieties developed by that institute. That institute is already a Meru. That institute already a global research institute. So that is the university system which is available in the Indian system, and that has been those university systems, whether it is the deemed university of the ICR system or it is the state agriculture university, whether it is Punjab, Haryana or Maharashtra or Gujarat or Kerala, any other universities which have been Tamil Nadu, Coimbatore and all those who have been really making tremendous contributions are a part of our National Agriculture Research, Education and Extension System. So this entire development which has taken place of bringing the rainbow revolution is the synergy of the farmer, of the academicians, of the policy makers, and if there is no synergy, this would have not happened. So this synergy among the three major pillars have to be maintained, and the policy members in particular have to remember that the policy just cannot come just off the hand, you can pick it up from anywhere. No, policy has to be based on scientific evidences. I have seen of late that whether it is in education or research or technology recommendation or development of agriculture for food security and nutrition, very often in the name of greening, policies which are not based on science, they are advocated. And we have seen what happened in Sri Lanka and what may happen at other places, also noticing what can happen in other countries and so on and so forth. I think we have to be careful that whatever we do, whatever the system and approach we select, we must be able to do it based on science evidence. Policy is not a simple thing. Please undertake your database, you're talking of digital systems, your analytics, your database systems of the big data, which Rajendra Prasad, you remember I talked to you in the RSC, that big data analysis to be kept to really give us the policy guidance to find the interaction effects along the value chain of all the stakeholders, which ultimately make a particular product from one end to the other end, and in the process they add value and they are a part of the final delivery to the ultimate consumer. Therefore, this continuity has to be maintained. And I would again very strongly suggest that what we learned, as a matter of fact, during the COVID that the investments in new technologies, particularly in the blended learning systems, is so very important and topical for us that we must be able to cherish it. And a point was made that if the system has to work, the infrastructure, the capacity, all those, and human resource capacity, all those have to be classroom capacity, have to be all built as per the need, and therefore the investment in the technology generation, its refinement, its transfer and adoption in this whole thing is very, very important. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Unless, if I have to go from here to the other corner, if I need a dime to reach there, if I don't have the dime, I cannot reach there. You may have everything, but you can't reach the place unless you have the means of reaching there. Therefore, investment at the right time, in right amount, for the right job is absolutely necessary, which Dr. Mahapatra, you are also able to emphasize. Do you know how low is the investment? What is the investment intensity in research in India? It is 0.4% of the agricultural GDP. We have been saying for the last 10 years, 15 years, that please raise it to 1% at least. In Australia and India, in America, it is 3% of the agricultural GDP. In India, it is 0.4%. In agriculture extension, it is 0.18%. In education, it is in between. So please look at the kind of degree of investment we are making and the intensity of investment of our budget in the different aspects of the national agriculture, education and extension system is so rather low and, if I may use the word, pathetic. The job before you is tremendous, but we need to improve the investment to really undertake the path which is necessary to make the difference between the today's and the final situation. You also know that there are aspirations. The statistics department keeps coming up with the projections. We know, we talk of the Amrit Kal. By the end of the Amrit Kal, which will be the year 2047, do you know what is expected? Our food grade production from today, which is about 320 million tons, by 2047, that is the end of the Amrit Kal, will be required to reach the 520 million tons. Now, our population today is 1.4 billion. Our population by the Amrit Kal end will be 1.6 plus billion. So here the population increases. Obviously, the food production has to increase. We have to reduce the post-harvest losses. We have to do the water use efficiency enhancement. We have to do the nitrogen use efficiency enhancement so that from less we can produce more for more. LML. Because your land is shrinking, your water is shrinking, your biodiversity is shrinking. So that is becoming less and less. Your resource is shrinking, but your needs are multiplying. How to reach there? You need the right kind of human resource. You need the right kind of technology. You need the right kind of knowledge-based interventions so that you can really achieve what you have been contemplating. Mind you, what I am saying of 2047, forget about 2047. Remember, we have a target before us, what we call the SDG, Agenda 2030. Do you know India is significantly off track in meeting our Agenda 2030 commitment? So friends, while we talk of the end of the Amrit Kal, We talk of today and tomorrow. I think those technologies are needed today and tomorrow in a very comprehensive, effective manner to meet our immediate goal of sustainable development goals. I will urge this must be given a very high priority. The aspirations to be met, as I mentioned, will be certainly helped in a big way by the kind of work that we are doing for the last 3 days here. And if we look at the two main priorities that the country has come up with, the foremost national priority today is the enhanced farmers' income. Because if you know that 240, if you look at the percentage way, more than 40% or so of the direct employment is in agriculture of the agriculturists. But the contribution of the agriculture to the total GDP is hardly 18%. So automatically, the income difference between the farmer and the non-farmer is 1:3, 1:4 at times. So with this dissimilarity, unevenness, inequality, inequity, which is a very major obstacle in development, you have to please see at those inequities to really reach the unreached, sabka vikas, sabka prayas. It is so very important. If we don't do that, if the digital cannot reach there, who else can reach there? So I think it is very important to please make it sure that we are able to meet our commitments of the highest priority that we have mentioned to really achieve. Same with the improved nutritional security. Right in this hall, 4 days ago, 5 days ago, we had the global day, International Day on millets, and you heard the beauty of millet, the kind of system it provides, and probably our educational system probably will have to internalize if you have to achieve the comprehensive nutritional security in our nation, along with the enhancement of the farmer's income. The actions required before us are certainly to develop the best of the technology, research, education and innovations, and the knowledge-based intensive agriculture and diversification has to take place. Digital agriculture on and off farm, as emphasized by Professor Matra, that has to be blended with the learning process, which must be made, as we can see here. Thanks, Dr. Agrawal. If you look at the 75 papers that you were able to summarize, the lecture series under the Mahotsav lectures, I think those will be very useful materials that we must be able to carry home to strengthen our technological understanding and use the blended learning ecosystem to reach our targets and to meet our priorities and to develop a resilient agriculture education system. Fortunately, India has emerged as a global leader in digitalization. And this was more than visibly impacted during the COVID. And do you know, during the COVID, year after year, in both the years consequently, India achieved record production in agriculture. And the impact of climate change during these last 4 or 5 years on agricultural stability and production has reduced, while earlier it was in a linear fashion. So my dear friends, something has been going on well, information flow, preparedness, whether digital means, blended technologies and so on and so forth, the farmers' readiness, the awareness, preparedness of all concerned. This was the situation achievement. And this is why our Prime Minister said, I dream of a digital India where quality education reaches the most inaccessible corners, driven by digital technologies for teaching and learning. What else? I mean, here is the Prime Minister himself exactly echoing what you have been echoing. And therefore, here is an excellent opportunity, Mr. Ji. Please connect to the right system to take advantage of this opportunity where the Prime Minister himself has talked about it. The silver lining of the COVID-19 pandemic is the large-scale adoption of the digital technologies and teaching and learning processes. Anyone from anywhere. We heard so many lectures online, outstanding lectures from US, from many other countries, and so on and so forth. And very often, before this, always we used to have our virtual meetings. Now we have physical meetings also started. And those virtual meetings came out with some excellent recommendations and so on and so forth. So time has changed. Our way of functioning has also changed. And we should be able to see that we develop our agricultural universities which become multidisciplinary and research intensive, as I mentioned. Our universities should be of global standards. Agriculture should be placed in the middle of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That is STEM. If you put A in the between, it becomes STEAM. STEAM means power. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics get empowered by putting agriculture in the middle of these, and vice versa. Agriculture gets empowered with science, engineering, technology, and mathematics. Therefore, my dear friends, if you look, Mr. Vijay, who was here talking about the Unnat Bharat and so on and so forth, this is exactly. So if you are going to villages, if you are taking agriculture along with the engineering people, along with the medical people, along with the other people and so on, and I noticed in the book that he gave me, agriculture had the 5 platforms, the first 4 or 5 platforms of their work was based on agriculture. And very often, before this meeting, very often you must have seen agriculture, even by UGC, has not been given the same reflection in the NEP that should have been given for agricultural education reformation. It is our job, my dear friends, collectively, to tell UGC also that, look, this NEP policy has exactly taken care of all your requirements, and we have been doing this before. We have put more things in here, and we have mentioned about several of the new things. Student Ready program, Agrawal Sahib, we mentioned it earlier. ARYA program, attracting and retaining youth in agriculture. Maya, motivating and attracting youth in agriculture, and so on and so forth. All these systems needs to be taken care of, and we must be able to, if you develop STEAM from STEM, then automatically multidisciplinary, multi-stakeholders, it is the land grant university system should be changed into a world grant university system. It is one health, one world, one system. It is we who impact the entire planet. So we have to think big. We have to think much more out of box to comprehensively to see that globally it is so, locally I have to do this. So local and global are not anymore too independent. They are actually highly interdependent. and therefore we must be able to undertake our journey in such a way that we are able to appreciate a world grant university system. Similarly, a point was made, we have to bring into our fold the private sector. How to do that? And for that, we have to find the pathways of connecting, integrating, marrying the science social responsibility with corporate social responsibility. And this is where the public-private sector, if they are totally integrated, and if you work together, in many things, as a matter of fact, farmers are private, and their system is private. So if we can make science humanized, it has a social responsibility, and let the corporate sector realize its social responsibility, serve that science which is humanized, and it should be the responsibility of all corporate sector individuals to help in the process. ICR, as a matter of fact, in promoting all these developments, the discovery of science to be also integrated with the science of delivery. We find that what happens today, we have Atma, we have the frontline demonstrations of the ICR system, there is a gap. So the science of discovery, that is the ICR system, agriculture university systems, all of you are doing, you stop after the demonstration plots. Then somebody else, the state governments, depending on their wish, will, preparedness, ability, capacity, funding, and so on, they would be able to take it to the ultimate who needs it. The last man in the queue gets it or not, it is the responsibility of those people at the ground level. It's not happening. Therefore, we have to think a little differently, make a recommendation here that there is a need for integrating the science of discovery with the science of delivery. If it is not delivered, what good is that science? So please make it sure that we think it that way. Likewise, I must say, as many of the reforms being brought in the ICR, Himanshu Pathak ji is not there, I thank him. I must thank Mahapatra Sahab for the many initiatives, Agrawal Sahab particularly for the education, the hard work and the many of the things, changes that he was able to mention and present here. We must be able to see that how the digital learning system especially is being promoted with the blended learning ecosystem and with the ICR support, the World Bank, the National Higher Agricultural Education System. I must congratulate you all, sir, for your exceeding the targets and the norms that you had fixed very often. You have achieved more than what you had aimed, several times more. I think this is a wonderful achievement. I'm so delighted that World Bank has done this thing with the help of the national systems and big way. As a matter of fact, with your clap, I am also encouraged to mention that I had the privilege to prepare the first draft, which Dr. Mahapatra asked me to do, of this National Agriculture Higher Education Project. Then later on, likewise, when Dr. Paroda was the Director General, he asked me to go to Rome, got a special team, I went to Rome with the investment center in Rome in FAO. I sat there and connected with the World Bank person on the other side, and in 15 days we prepared a project called NATP, National Agriculture Technology Project. You all must have learned, benefited from that. We came back prepared, gave it to Dr. Paroda, this is the project. He went to World Bank without change of a full stop, comma. The World Bank gave us ever the highest grant given by World Bank to a research system that NATP was able to win. Thank you, World Bank. Thanks for your understanding, and thanks for our need and requirement, and we were able to move forward. And that NATP, likewise the NAHEP, will make the difference. And I think this will be happening. Friends, I don't want to go in more details. I have many other things, just jotted down new things quickly. But I will only suggest and make a recommendation following a SWOT analysis and underpinning One Health, One World. Implementation of the new agriculture education policy should highlight the role of digitalization and blended learning ecosystem. Connecting all institutions, sharing data and experiences. With the big data available now, those data systems becomes the richest treasure for all of us to move forward on a knowledge-based agriculture development. Similarly, I will only like to mention India's global leadership in digitalization, promotion of millets, Sri Anna, superfood, which should academically be glorified by prominently including this development in the new course curriculum of the universities. This should be a part of the university curriculum course. Let our students, who will be our leader in agriculture tomorrow, be aware of this. What do I mean by the system which we are looking into it? What do I mean by Sri Anna? What do I mean by superfood? What do I mean by, if the Prime Minister declares the Center of Excellence on Millet Research at Hyderabad as the global center of excellence, what does it mean? How should we go about it? The conference, if you remember, since you all shared the millet cake cut by the minister here in the inauguration of this conference, let me share and remind you that there is something in it. And I would like to say that the millets being a pro-poor, a source of prosperity, comprehensively nutritionally rich, and possessing high resilience to climate, suited to rain-fed areas, and socially inclusive, should have a high priority when we are restructuring our course curricula under the leadership of the DDG. Being a low-input, high-output crop, low carbon emission crop, which regulates its nitrous oxide evolution by itself. The millet anatomy itself is built into to tolerate and be low carbon system, should be promoted, particularly when India has committed for a zero balance by 2070 or so of the carbon or the greenhouse gas emission. Therefore, I would suggest that on millets, keeping in mind the values which I have just mentioned, which will prove as a game changer in many ecologies in the world, science, technology, and innovation should help bring millet revolution for promoting inclusive, healthy growth and meeting the sustainable development goals. New agricultural education curricula must comprehensively cover the prospects of millets as a future main savior of humanity, especially in the stressed areas. The G20 summit will be held in India, and I am sure our Prime Minister will talk of the International Millet Year there. And your recommendations, if this declaration is clean and nicely safeguarded and nicely helped and brought out with the help of everyone concerned, I am sure he would be happy to share the declaration of this meeting with the G20 leaders of the world. So this meeting becomes a global meeting. If you connect this, your good work, with that new coming possibility, let me wish you all, my dear friends, that an international consortium with that G20 meeting, with the presentation of the results here, is established so that your efforts become truly international. I wish you very happy education. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience and time.